WJR.com. Thanks for listening and thanks for supporting Transmedia Worldwide. Welcome back to the big broadcast, coast to coast and border to border, all over the World Wide Web and on 50-plus stations throughout the U.S. and Canada. AM, FM, we've got Gerald Celente with us today. Gerald is known all over the globe. He is a fantastic interviewer. We love Gerald. And Gerald, you've been on a lot of radio programs lately talking about some of the future trends, and you're over there at the Trends Journal. Gerald, it is my honor and privilege to have you on this broadcast. We've worked a heck of a long time trying to get you locked in, so thanks for being on with us today. How are you on this great Friday?
I'm fine, and thanks for having me on.
Now, recently, we did a story, I believe it was 2 days ago. It was the website beforeitsnews.com, published a report of Nostradamus' predictions for 2015, and one of the main deals in that I find just astronomically amazing is that Nostradamus predicted that the U.S. economy will be devastated and will go the way of the dinosaurs in 2015. It doesn't take Nostradamus to to predict that, because you guys at the Trends Journal have been talking about this for a while. I see you on all the radio programs talking about it as well. What do you make of 2015 and this prediction from Nostradamus?
Well, you know, it's nobody can predict the future, by the way. They're too many wild cards.
Yeah.
And so, for example, the economy should have gone sour, years ago.
Oh, yeah.
But who knew that they were going to invent quantitative easing? I mean, it was a new thing. Who knew that they would bring interest rates to record lows?
Yep.
So the thing is that I'm saying is that they could keep the Ponzi scheme going. They'll make up something. But long term, and again, there could be other mitigating factors that do destroy the economy, but as I see it, it's going to continue to be more of the same but worse. And what I mean by that is that you're going to see a continual degradation of quality of jobs, a continuing falling off of the standard of living,
Yep.
and a rising gap between the rich and the poor. These things, again, they could change on a dime. And you almost saw it last month with what was flaring up in Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
So, then you have this is very similar, as we see it, to World War I. We had psychopaths and sociopaths, both in the military and in government, that destroyed Europe at a time when it was blooming.
Yep.
Because they were essentially out of their minds. It was a worthless war, but it just fed the greed and power of sick people. Well, here we are, we're back in the same situation. So anything could change. But long term, matter of fact, we're saying by the end of this quarter, the second quarter, we're going to see an economic shock hit the global equity markets.
Well, we've got Gerald Celente with us today. He joins us live as live can get. He is fantastic. He has been on a lot of your favorite radio programs. He predicted the panic of 08 in November of 2007. He forecast the recession of 2007 and 2004. Years before Starbucks was a household name, Gerald Celente forecast the popularity of the gourmet coffee. So he knows what he's talking about. He's the publisher over there at the Trends Journal. And Gerald, give me your thoughts on the Ukraine. We've been talking to a lot of experts, but I know that you've got a lot of the inside scoop, and you've been predicting a lot of the different things that are going on with the Ukraine. Give us your thoughts and feelings on this.
Well, you have the Trends Journal, and if you look at the cover, it's Ukraine, and that story was written in the middle of January.
Yeah.
So we could see this one coming, and this is a propaganda campaign. It began, by the way, leading up to it, with the Sochi Olympics, and we were writing about it and speaking about it as it was happening. And you remember them dogs that they were killing all over there, those stray dogs. Remember that yellow water, and remember those toilets that were side by side. Every day, or even Twitter, the hashtags for the failing Sochi Olympics. and then it worked. You remember those toothpaste bombs? I mean, who can make that stuff up?
Yes.
Or a Tampax missile. Yeah, so they were building fear and hysteria. By the time the Sochi Olympics began, 57% of the people in the United States believed there was going to be a terror strike, and the American public had looked at Russia at the lowest point that it did since 1994. So then the Ukraine crisis starts heating up, and then you had then before that you also had what's his name, Putin trumping Obama when Obama picked out his crayons and drew a red line with Syria, and then Putin called him out on it, and they calmed the situation down. So what you're looking at in Ukraine, and then everybody I'm sure that listens to your station and others, they're familiar with the Victoria Nuland tapes.
Yes, indeed. Yes.
And the ambassador to Ukraine, Jeffrey Pyatt, and they picked up them on a conversation, talking essentially about the overthrow of the Yanukovych government and putting in, quote, Yats, that little rabbit that they got in there now. And then you go back to watch Victoria Nuland, our Assistant Secretary of State, on December 13th, 2013, at the National Press Club in D.C., putting on a speech. Anybody can go to YouTube and find it. And there she is giving a speech about Ukraine. And what's over her left shoulder? A big chevron sign. So the whole thing is it's about business and it's about the neocons. The business is, and as she's saying it, that the path for Ukrainians are to join the European Union and to follow the path set forth by the International Monetary Fund or the International Mafia Federation, whichever you choose to call it.
Yes, yes.
And then you see the deal with the neocons, and it would be like now if we had missiles and maneuvers up in Canada and Mexico by Russians, and they're pointing into the United States. That's what the United States has done. They have made it seem as though the Soviet Union lost the Cold War, and this is the punishment that they're getting for losing. You don't rub this in a proud people's face. If anybody wants to see the blowback, all they'll have to do is look what happened with the Treaty of Versailles after World War I, how they degraded Germany, and what happened later on. And if anybody thinks that the United States, led by Barack Obama, or UK, led by David Cameron, or France, led by Hollande, is going to beat Putin, I'll take your bets. Because if Napoleon couldn't pull it off, and Hitler couldn't pull it off, you think that they're going to defeat the Russians?
No. See, this is something else. We've got Gerald Celente with us today here on the program, and we have been working overtime trying to get Gerald on the program. He's a publisher, Trends Journal, and he is just amazing. Think about some of the accomplishments this man has. Decades before Pepsi and Coke got into the water business, Gerald Celente predicted the big boom in bottled water. When gold was $275 per ounce in 2002, Gerald Celente said the price had bottomed, and in 2004 forecast the beginning of the gold bull run. Since that time, with pinpoint accuracy, he said when, why, and where gold would go. Gerald, recently we've been all these wars in the Middle East and all these various things. Afghanistan and a lot of these Middle Eastern countries have been called empire killers, and it seems to me that that's what they've done to, like, the U.S. economy. They devastated Russia's economy. Are we ever going to be able to get the economy back on track if we just keep messing with these folks in the Middle East, or should we pull completely out? We've got these Ukraine situations. It seems like we are taxed and we are all over the planet. What do you recommend, and what do you see coming down the pike, my friend?
Well, what we recommend, and we're going to be publicizing it in the upcoming Trends Journal, the spring edition, which will be out in 2 weeks, occupypeace.us. No foreign entanglements. We're up here in Colonial Kingston, New York, 2 hours north of New York City.
Yeah.
This is where the revolution had its foundation. The founding fathers, from Washington's farewell address to Franklin to Adams, one after another, Jefferson, no foreign entanglements. Could you imagine Obama, Clinton, Bush, Kerry, all of them going over to Washington? The guy that led the troops fought, not like these little fat-mouthed boys, these little chicken hawks that couldn't fight their way out of a paper bag. Them going up to Washington and say, you know, George, I listened to your farewell address, and you're full of baloney with this no foreign entanglements. We know better than you. And you know why? I went to Harvard. He went to Yale. I went to Princeton. Can you imagine it? All of these people, they are traitors. Everyone that wants to go fight in a war in a foreign country is a traitor to which this country was built upon, the foundation it was established, and the doctrine set forth by the founding fathers. No foreign entanglements. You want to go, pack up your wife, take your kids, take your money, and lead the charge, Junior. Keep me out of your psycho trip.
We've got Gerald Celente with us today, and he is fired up on a fabulous, fabulous Friday, and we're glad to have him on with us today. Gerald, two more stories before we let you go. I know that your time is very precious. This one story that broke earlier today, this Democratic Representative Jim Moran says that impoverished congressmen aren't paid enough. What do you think about this?
Let me go back on. We're having an Occupy Peace movement.
Yes.
And we're going to be launching it in the coming months, and there's going to be a lot more information out on it. And that, to us, is the way to save the nation. Bringing the money back to America. No, what are we doing with bases in Italy and Germany and Japan?
I agree. Completely agree.
Restore America. Rebuild the nation. We can do it. But we have people, that are like this moron that you just mentioned.
Yes.
And the rest of them. I mean, look at them. What self-respecting human being could look up to Pelosi, to Reid, to Boner, to McConnell, to little Lindsey Graham, to Kerry, to Bush, to, what's his name? Rumsfeld.
Oh, yes.
He shot his mouth off a couple of weeks ago and said an ape could run what's going on in Afghanistan better than the government now. How about the little chimp that started the wars? Bush and Scumsfeld and Wolfowitz and the rest of them. So what I'm saying to you is that it's up to us to change the course. Look who we are letting lead us. They're the Democratic and Republican mafia. They're no different than the Bloods and the Crips. They're murderers and they're thieves. They start wars that slaughter millions of innocent people over lies.
Yes.
And they rob our dough. So they're gangs. We need a new direction, and that's what Occupy Peace.us is going to be. No foreign entanglements, a rebuilding and a restoration of the great things that made America at one time the true envy of the world.
We've got Gerald Celente with us today here on the program. He comes to us from the Trends Journal. He is fantastic. If you think about some of the things he's predicted over the years, the Trends Research and Gerald Celente were forerunners in the natural healing and alternative health movement and complementary medicine. They've done some amazing stuff. We mentioned earlier his accomplishments. He predicted the panic of '08 in November of 2007. Trends Journal, he's the publisher of it. He's with us today here on the big program. Now, Gerald, before we let you go, let's talk about two stories. One being the fact that recently, this was reported by Money Morning staff. 36 U.S. cities and 20 states have abandoned the dollar, and it seems to me that there's a lot of other countries Russia, North Korea, Iran, a lot of these countries are starting to move away from the dollar. This is a strange situation. Warren Buffett warned we should fear paper money. The U.S. dollar is losing 38.5% of its value since 2002. This is amazing. I cannot wait to hear your thoughts on it. Break it down for me, Gerald.
Well, it's amazing that they don't have a new reserve world currency already. A reserve currency. You know Dr. Paul Craig Roberts.
Yes, indeed.
And by the way, if anybody wants a chronicle of what's going on in Ukraine from start to where it is, it's paulcraigroberts.org. He's writing history as it's happening, and he's also a contributor to Trends Journal, a former Treasury Secretary of under Reagan, and Assistant Treasury Secretary. He wonders why the BRIC nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, have not already come up with a reserve currency. So it's only going to be a matter of time. And one of the interesting things to look at with China, with their yuan, it's being now traded more and more places around the world. But even at that, they're still under 2% as a reserve currency. But what's interesting about it is that China is the largest purchaser of gold in the world. They've taken over where India used to be.
Yep.
So what I believe is going to something to consider as people are looking at this is that all of a sudden China announces that it's going to back its yuan with gold. Then it becomes a real reserve currency. But then we also have to look at what's going on in China. They have a credit bubble, too. The only reason their economy keeps going is they did what the United States and Europe did. They pumped in stimulus. The big difference is what China did is they put the money into the economy. They built their rail systems, their infrastructure, housing for low income. They've used that money in positive ways, whereas the stimulus in Japan with Abenomics, the United States with European Union, that money all went into enriching the already filthy rich with the equity markets.
Yeah.
So China is also facing problems. I think, though, that the government that comes out and says that we're a new reserve currency, and with us, you don't have to worry because your money is as good as gold. That's the one that's going to rise to the top.
Well, Gerald, I'll have to say you are a fantastic guy. Trends Journal is a fantastic publication. We read it all the time here, and we have been trying to get you on the show for a long time, so I'm glad that we were able to pull this off. And come back anytime, my friend. I would love to have you if you get a chance.
Thank you so much. Very kind of you. All the best, and keep up the great work.
Definitely. Gerald, have yourself a wonderful day. We'll talk soon, sir. Happy Friday.
Bye-bye.
That was a fantastic interview. If you want to get more information on Gerald Celente, check out the Trends Journal. Gerald Celente with us today here on the big program.